But I
these
think
the
we have
same people?
forgotten the free. Uh, are these the same people?
Yeah, aren't these the
Many
same
times
people
it
that are?
is.
Yeah, they want
And that's,
this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I was just thinking about the other part of that clause that says the free exercise of religion also. You know,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I think there's a lot of problem with that right now as far as people that own businesses and people that are entitled to have free exercise of their religion. I don't know why we are promoting one half of that and certainly not promoting the other half.
You know, it still just comes down to what the objective is. There are people in this country that, for whatever reason, they don't want there to be a fully functional, operational Christian church, because people of faith are never going to sit back and just let the government take care of them. And that, in turn, cuts their power over those people.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, if I think if we taught biblical principles like the country was founded on, I mean, the Declaration of Independence says on the laws of nature and nature's God. You know, those kind of principles as far as helping yourself, the Bible talks a lot about slothfulness. The Bible, you know, these are things that probably should be taught in the churches, and people would probably be paying more attention. But I think you're exactly right. We are, Americans for the most part, came here to be able to practice their religion freely, to be independent, and to make the kind of life that they could make with their own tenacity, with their own motivation, and do what they wanted to do. And incrementally, we are watching that being taken away from the people in America. And I hope now that we're paying close enough attention to say, hey, wait a minute, we've got to quit giving handouts, we've got to give hand-ups. We're going to help people to do better. So anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But, yes, I think that government dependency is not the answer to our question.
Absolutely. And, yeah, again, I think that's why these folks attack people of faith in particular, because that's the message they're going to bring. It never ceases to amaze me, though, that the people that are attacking your bill when you've just filed it yet, they're the same people that want the separation of church and state, but they seem perfectly okay with leaving this indoctrination level of Islam in place out of fear of being called an Islamophobe, I suppose, or is there something else? Or
I think we have to get over that fear. I think every one of us has to get over that fear of being called an Islamophobe, a homophobe, a racist, a bigot. That is how nations are silenced, when they become afraid of being called something. You know, I've taught a lot of teenage girls in my life, and I always tell the girls, anybody can say anything about you. That doesn't make it true. And when you live your life understanding that people are going to say things about you, that doesn't make it true. You continue to go on and stand for what you believe and know that you can do that because you know that the things they're saying are not true. And the more of us that can believe that, the better off we're all going to be.
Absolutely. All right. You've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but just so the folks listening at home can really hear, how has been the support of your constituents after this made headlines?
Absolutely amazing. I honestly have been just floored by the people that say, Sheila, thank you for the people. And, you know, and they just see this as a chance to have this discussion and to make sure that we're being fair across the board. And people across the state of Tennessee and nationally have contacted me and said, oh, Sheila, thank you for opening this, and let's have this discussion. So I've just been really overwhelmed and humbled by the people who say, Sheila, yes, this is exactly what we need to do. So I'm hoping, well, my own school board passed a resolution in favor of the bill and mentions the very same things that I mentioned in the bill, and I'm hoping this will take off across the state of Tennessee and that school boards across the state. Parents will go to their school board and say, let's support this bill. And then when those people call their representatives and say, I want you to support this, and then the representatives will not be afraid of what somebody's going to say or what somebody's going to call them, because we really want to represent our constituents. So I need for other parents who care about this and who are interested in this to call their representatives, to call their school board and say, may we pass a resolution in favor of this. This is a bill that needs to take on a life of its own, and the people of the state of Tennessee need to stand up for it.
Well, I absolutely agree, and I know I'm already in contact with my representatives down here, Kent Caffey, and from the conversation I had with him briefly, and I'm planning on having some follow-ups with him, some other folks have already contacted him in support of your bill too. So I do think
Wonderful.
this is exactly what you say it is: common sense, simple, easy to understand, and something that represents not just Tennessean values, but American values, period. Anybody who claims to be... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's fine.
I was just going to say that anybody who claims to be fair-minded about the topic can't have a legitimate argument against this bill the way you framed it.
And that's why it's so important for people to read the bill and for the bill not to be tagged an anti-anything bill, but a pro-fairness, a pro-age-weightedness, a pro-age-appropriate bill. So we need to make sure that it doesn't get tagged to that. That's why we need to put this bill out everywhere for people to read it, because a lot of times people just take one line and that's what they go with, and I think that's what happened at the very beginning of this. So let's make sure that the bill gets out there. I certainly want to have more discussion. If there's something we need to make a little more clear, I'm certainly happy to do that. But I want people to understand that this is a bill that the people in the state of Tennessee can have an open discussion and try to determine together what's in the best interest of our students. We are the parents. We are the taxpayers. We are the people who trust our children to the public school, and we have a right to know what's being taught, and we have a right to have a say in what's being taught.
Absolutely. All right. As far as your contact information, if somebody wants to see what you're doing online, if they want to follow you on Facebook, Twitter, how do they get in touch with you?
The best thing would be go to, let me see, on Facebook would be Sheila, S-H-E-I-L-A, K, middle initial K, Butt, B-U-T-T. And then I have a Sheila-Butt State Representative community page, Sheila-Butt.tn on Twitter. And then my representative mailbox is kind of lengthy, rep.butt.at capitol.tn.gov. And if you don't mind, I'll give my phone number also.
Go right ahead.
615-741-3005. And what's most important to me is that you contact your representative and help them get on board with this. And let's get the people across the state of Tennessee to have some say and determination what's being taught to their children.
All right. And in today's show description, I also have a link to www.sheila-butt.com, which has posting information that Representative Butt places up to keep you informed of what's going on and what she's been doing. I also have a link to the Facebook page that is her representative page, Sheila Butt for Tennessee. And, that's just the many ways that you can get in touch with her, or follow her, and keep informed with where things are going with this. Now, this show, even though I'm based here in Tennessee, I have more of a national following. Tennessee is actually fifth on my list of states in listenership. So, but as you pointed out, we're seeing similar things to this going on around the country. So, if nothing else, this also will help provide some leadership towards your community and your school. So, if you're some of the folks in Georgia that's got the same thing going on, in Alabama, and anywhere else where you're seeing Common Core standards or anything that's pro one religion, regardless whether it's Islam or not. That's
or overweightedness in any area like that. If there's just an overweight, when you have 13% of 75 standards for the year directed at one thing, there might be an overweighting of those standards. So that's what you need to look at, certainly the age appropriateness. And I would hope that this might become model legislation across the U.S.
Well, I certainly would hope so, too, especially just because, again, it is short and common sense.
That's right.
That would be my place for everything. All right. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on to the show today and for speaking to my audience and giving us your side of this so that people know that if all they've heard to this point are some of these articles, like I said, the first article I came across this was being put out there by an atheist author that was part of an atheist page, just periodically pops up in my timeline on Facebook, and they were cracking hard on it too, and I was wondering if they had read it, because once I went back and looked at this myself, I don't see anywhere where anything is even the least bit offensive. And
I can't imagine why
understand.
an atheist would feel that way. I can't imagine why an atheist would feel that way. But then, sometimes people protest for other reasons.
Yeah. All part of an agenda, whatever that agenda may be, sometimes. And unfortunately, that's the modern world.
And sometimes that agenda just includes divisiveness. Whoever you can divide. If you can divide this group and this group and this group, of course, we know that once you're divided, it's a lot easier to take over things. So I think that a lot of that comes from an agenda of let's divide this country, let's divide the American people, let's have them calling each other names, and we know as Americans that we didn't get where we are by being divided. We got there because we saw something great. We saw the city on a hill, and we said, we're going to make this the greatest country on earth. But there is an agenda right now in our nation to divide us, and we know that we're going to have to stand up and say, wait a minute, we're all Americans, we're all in this together, and we will stand.
I could not have said that better myself. Thank you very much. Once we get back into session, which starts back up in January, I hope that you will come back on the show and give us follow-up on this bill and any other bills that you have any particular insight you'd like to talk about.
That sounds great. You just contact me anytime.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And again, I can't possibly thank you enough for being on today. Thank you very much. You have a blessed upcoming week, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Sure, and call your representative and see if he's on board.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you, and God bless.
You too.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Tennessee State Representative Sheila-Butt, and right now she is leading the charge to try and help balance the scales of the indoctrination process that is going on in public schools all across the country. Now, for those of you that are in the chat room, Larry, Mary, Michelle in particular, I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to follow the link I put in, but Breitbart this past Friday did a very in-depth investigation into the standards and what's being said, what all the arguments pro and con. They went into depth about a lot of the major players. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate the compliment. I do think she was a great guest, one of the better guests I've had in a while, straight and to the point. But the most important thing here is it's unbelievably clear how much Representative Sheila does not want to be divisive. You know, she's not out here trying to promote Christianity in the school, which me, as a opinionated talk show host, tend to think our schools could use a little more of that. But if you're going to honor separation of church and state, if you believe that's one of your most important tenets, then you have to be consistent across the board. Of course, we've talked a million times here, and both on the air and off the air, with a lot of the regular listeners that are also on my Facebook timelines and friends and Twitter feed and all that wonderful stuff. Those of you that I interact with and via social media outside